Soft piano notes floated through the church at Nyalenda, wrapping the congregation in an atmosphere of reverence and expectation. The pastor walked to the pulpit with slow, deliberate steps, his polished shoes tapping against the cold tiles like a measured warning. He placed his Bible down gently, adjusted the microphone, and lifted his eyes toward the people, his face heavy with practiced humility. He spoke of salvation, of sin, of miracles waiting to be claimed. Hands rose, voices murmured, hearts leaned forward in hope. Then his tone shifted. Blessings, he said, were planted like seeds, watered by money and faith combined. Tongues burst forth, the piano grew louder, and emotion flooded the sanctuary. Amilo leapt up screaming that she could hear again, her joy igniting wild applause. Cameras rolled, praise erupted. Faith became spectacle, and miracles became proof that giving more could unlock heaven's door. As cheers echoed, Kabago limped forward on trembling crutches, desperation written across his face. The pastor seized the crutches and commanded him to walk. Kabago fell hard onto the floor, shame and pain spilling from his eyes. The pastor's voice thundered with accusation. Faith was small, money was missing. Ushers hovered, Agnes smiled approvingly, and the congregation shifted uneasily. Prayers were shouted, but compassion was absent. Kabago collapsed again and was dragged away as though his suffering were an inconvenience. Outside the pulpit's glow, doubt crept into faithful hearts. Some wondered why money spoke louder than mercy. Others stayed silent, afraid to challenge power dressed in holiness. The piano continued to play, masking discomfort with worship. In that moment, faith cracked quietly beneath the weight of fear, greed, and unanswered cries, while the altar remained bright and the truth hid in the shadows. Beyond the church walls, darkness thrived without hymns. A policeman confronted the pastor about his past, about a name whispered in criminal circles, Oyaye. The pastor laughed it off, pride shielding fear. At home, holiness vanished. Agnes sprawled in the living room, careless and defiant, while Madame watched with wounded eyes. Words turned sharp, insults turned violent, and Madame was left bruised in body and spirit. The pastor chose loyalty to his secrets over love for his wife. Agnes roamed the night streets, bargaining her body for protection, while stolen offerings and illegal deals whispered through the church like poison. Faith had become currency. God had become brand. Inside the sanctuary, smiles preached heaven, but outside, corruption screamed louder. Slowly, the walls of deception began to weaken under the weight of truth, waiting to be revealed. The breaking point came without warning. Voices rose within the church, challenging the lie that God could be bought. Arguments erupted, loyalty fractured, and fear replaced blind belief. Then death struck. A man demanding his tithe collapsed and died, and silence swallowed the congregation whole. Panic spread like wildfire. The miracle stage became a courtroom of conscience. No prayers could erase what everyone saw. The pastor stood exposed, not by police, but by truth. Days later, the church fell quiet. No piano, no shouting, only regret. Sitting alone with an unopened Bible, the pastor finally confessed to Madame that he had built a church but neglected his soul. Pride dissolved into shame. Performance died. Repentance, quiet and painful, took its first breath. The following Sunday, the pastor stood among the people, not above them. His confession was simple, unpolished, and real. Some walked away, wounded beyond forgiveness. Others stayed, listening with cautious hearts. Agnes left silently, choosing honesty over shortcuts. Madame reopened the church kitchen to feed the poor, without cameras or applause. The church shrank, but its spirit deepened. Faith softened. Truth replaced noise. Months turned to years, and the church became known not for miracles, but for compassion. When Agnes returned, humbled and hopeful, Madame welcomed her with grace. Healing came slowly, imperfectly, but sincerely. The story that began with deception ended in redemption. Faith no longer shouted. It whispered, healed, and endured.